so you've got yourself an R1300GS and you want to get rid of this ugly standard GPS mount and replace it with something more discreet and run a Garmin Zumo or similar. This is how you do it. Remove the 4 bolts that hold the screen on and put them to one side, and remove the screen and put it down on a soft cloth. The screws are all the same size, so you don't need to separate them. I like to use these little magnetic trays made by Shaw, and they pop up like this and keep everything sunny side up. Next, these winglets simply pop off, and no bolts are holding them on other than the windshield. We also need to remove the winglets. It's a T25 star drive for both of these. Be careful not to lose any washers or spacers. And then there's a little arm on the end of this winglet that just hooks in here. So just wiggle it, be gentle with it, and it should come out. So that's the hook on the bodywork. Obviously hooks in that way and then turns that way. So when you go to remove it, push them forwards and pull them out gently. So I'm going to try and do this one on camera for you. So you put it forwards and you should see it start pulling out its housing, and then just gently pull it and it's out. Now this one of the screws has brought its kind of lug beneath it, and that's what it looks like. Don't worry about that, it will fit back in its hole just nice and tighten up, no problem. Next, place a soft cloth over the TFT to protect it when you remove this housing. You're going to need a star drive set like this. It's a T25 to remove the main windshield screen, and then you'll need to remove these 2 bolts here at the base of the GPS, and that's a T30. Next, put a cloth or a piece of foam underneath this clamp, because this whole housing is only held on by 2 push inserts here. So what you've got to do is put the screen in its highest setting, get your fingers behind the radar cover and push upwards, pull and push upwards, and then that should move forward, and you don't want to scratch this up as you do that. All right, so with the screen raised, this easily pulls out. There's just the 2 poppers at the bottom there, as I mentioned. They go into the housing there and there, so they just pop in very easy. And what BMW have done is they've tied up the cable nice and neat there and put the connector there. So that's the connector that we need to remove before fitting the Garmin cable. So I'll show you how to do that. Okay, it is difficult to hold the torch and the iPhone and show you at the same time, but when you press with your thumb at the bottom here, you'll see that the housing gives a little bit, and then this will slide off. So you're pushing at the bottom there, and then this will slide downwards and off. So this is now free, and this is on a bracket, and we have to get that off the bracket, so I'll show you how to do that. Okay, this top connector, which is connected to the OEM original wiring to the bracket, has a little hidden release underneath here. You have to put a screwdriver, tiny screwdriver up beneath it in the middle and push it this way. Push it away from that way. Push it away that way, and then it will slide up and off. There you go. So this has a little hook there, which you can see. So when it's like that, you put your screwdriver up in the middle, push it that way, and then it will just slide up and off, and you are now fully separated from the OEM plug. Next, simply snip off these 2 cable ties that are through the bodywork, being careful not to damage any of the original wiring, and then the whole housing should come off with the wiring. Okay, so the whole housing and wiring is off now. Make sure you remove the original cable ties, you don't want them rattling around, plus you need to be able to cable tie the Zumo or whatever it is that you're fitting in there as well. Next step is really to remove this OEM housing and then fit the Zumo bracket to the OEM bracket here. GPS housing, I should say, has a specific number on it. Alright, next put in the feasibly large key that BMW give you. Give it a turn, pull the lever on the back outwards and push that, I think, and then this should fall off. Ta-da! And then you have access to some more screws here, and you can remove that to get the housing separated from the bracket. So these bolts here are a T20 style drive, and a good tip is to have your little tray here, put this over it and then undo them, because the nut will fall off the back, as you see it there. And they're very tiny, easy to lose, and you want to keep all the OEM stuff in a plastic bag, like food bag, something like that, quart Ziploc, something like that. But it's a good tip to undo them over this and just let them drop into the box. All right, so everything nicely bagged up, the OEM cable and housing for the GPS, and put it in your box that has all the other parts and accessories that you've maybe replaced for your bike, so it's to hand when you come to sell the bike, and perhaps you'll be kind enough even to refit this for the new owner. Here's the bracket, so that's going back on. Let's look at the more discreet bracket that we're going to attach to this bracket to fit the Zumo. So the bracket we're going to fit is from MotoPumps. It is a MkII GPS 12, and MotoPumps always supply with a bag of M&Ms. They're good people. And from Max BMW, we have this part, which is called a service plug, I believe. And there we go. And that's what it looks like. And this is going to wire into the Garmin, and this white plug here replaces the OEM plug that we just removed on the bike. The lines or the cables, there's 3 cables. They're numbered 1, 2 and 3. 3 is the live and 1 is the neutral. So we need to wire that to the GPS cable, and then we can fit it to the bike. Now, I ordered the official Zumo XT motorcycle mount and the Zumo power lead from Garmin themselves. They just work, so just get those. So the Garmin cable comes with spade connectors, which you won't need. It comes with these super tiny screws and a screwdriver that will actually fit those tiny screws, and you do need that because you'll need that for fixing the housing. And so basically this will wire up to my yellow cable ready to plug into the bike, and this part of the Garmin is it's just a waterproof cover. That part will go through this. Use the tiny screws here to secure it in place, and that will bolt to the bracket here, and the bracket of course will be on the BMW bracket above the dashboard, so good to go. Alright, so I've crimped the cables and I've used this product. This is SGS solder seal wire connectors, and essentially you just twist the ends of the cables together after putting one end through the tube, one of these tubes, and then you just apply a heat gun to seal it off. It seals it both sides of the solder point, and then there's a little bit of solder in the middle there which just melts over your twisted wires. It's very simple, easy to do if you're not familiar with soldering or you don't have soldering iron. Either method works pretty well. So soldering iron if you've got one, if not, one of these simple connectors is a nice easy way to do it. Number 3 to the red, number 1 to the black, number 2 just lives in limbo. All right, now we've got our Garmin power lead wired up to, hardwired to our OEM fitting plug for the BMW. We've got to feed the power bit through the bracket. So You feed it from back to front. The front is these big holes. There's no small holes on the back, but deep recessed holes, I should say. You feed it through, and then it sits in this housing, and then it secures on the back with the tiny screw that they have supplied. Let me show you what that looks like once you've pushed the cable through and then recessed it back into the housing. So once it's through, you can kind of, lighting's not great here, but you can see it's through. You just make sure that it sits, push it back with your thumb so it sits nicely in the housing. Boom. And then there's a little tiniest screw at the top there, which you're going to use with the screw that they supplied and the screwdriver to snug that up secure. Alright, so I popped my new connector from Max BMW in. Number 3 to the live, number 1 to the neutral on the Garmin power lead, which comes around here with this little regulator box. And there's the housing, which we just established. Pop the GPS on the housing, turn the bike on, see whether we have power. Right, fingers crossed. Yes, we have power. Ah, love it. Turn the power off. So there's a delay. There's a delay before the external power is lost. So it keeps powering the GPS after the ignition has gone off for maybe 30 seconds or so, and then the power is cut. It's not immediate, which kind of threw me at first, but I think we are good to go. I'm going to try it again. Turn the bike on. Now we have power. There's about a minute in total before external power is lost and it turns itself off. That's all right, good to go. Now for the MotorPumps mount, you're going to take a T15 to clamp this on here. So in essence, it should look like that at the back. And there's 2 parts here, then there's front, and you just leave it kind of snugged up a little bit, but it's kind of loose enough that you can move it to get it to exactly where you want before you tighten it up for reals. And now we need to fit this part of the Garmin to here. The other way around even, that way around, like that. And then we should be good for feeding the cables back and tying them up. Now it's important that you don't use the nuts and bolts that are supplied with the Garmin mount. You want to use the MotoPumps 4 little bolts and these little washers to affix the Garmin housing. Right, I actually found a T16 Torx head works best with these, a little better than 15. You can see why having a Torx kit is quite invaluable, and you really can't do this job without it. So if you're going to attempt this job yourself, get yourself a nice Torx drive kit, and a good set of Allen keys as well is always useful. They're probably the 2 most used things in my toolbox. So now's the time to fit the GPS and make sure that height-wise it's perfect for you. What I mean by that is put your hands on the bars, sit in the normal riding position, and have this bottom ledge level with the top of the TFT, because you don't want any information obscured by the GPS, and that should be just about right for you as an individual. And then you go around the back and tighten up the MotoPumps locking nuts on the bracket itself. So now we've got the mount perfectly positioned for us and this locking bracket tightened up. All we're going to do now is tidy up the cables and reassemble the bike. Now a couple of things to remember here is, remember this housing here, it has that cutout at the top, and that's to route your GPS cable neatly, so you want to make sure that it's routed down there. And then another thing is that this bracket here holding on the GPS, those bolts have to go through this outer housing before they go through that housing. And So I bolted them on just so that I can put the GPS in the right position and get the wiring in the right position. Now I've got to work out how to get the cable down that slot and neatly tucked up in there before removing these bolts again and protecting the housing and GPS, and then putting this back in situ, if that makes sense. Okay, so what I worked out is a nice short cable at the front so it's not too visible, and what you want to do is run the cable around the back of this bracket here, just all the way down, because when you fit this cover back on in a second, the cutout there lines up with that bracket, and that's where your cable wants to slot through. And what I've done for the time being is I haven't cut the Garmin cable. I want to retain the length that it arrived with, but I've used two thick black cable ties here through the OEM holes to tie up the bulk of all of the Garmin cable and its little regulator, and then the connections that I made plus the socket that I bought to plug into the OEM BMW housing. I'm going to tidy these up separately because I want to be respectful of them and careful with them to make sure that they don't move around, and also that I can access them easily if I have some kind of problem with a connection. Okay, so there's the final wiring look. Loops up round the back, all the way down here, comes through here. All the main cable is secured at the back with the black cable ties, and then I put a cable tie around here, around this kind of collet here, and tied it to a cable to secure that so it can't move around too much. And then I also secured at the end here so the connectors don't move around too much, and then just loop the 1 and 3 wire around into a little loop and cable tied it up. So it's a fairly neat job, I think, and hopefully I can get this bracket off now and get the housing back in and the bracket put back on again. We'll see. I've left the 2 cable ties at the back, the one on here, the one on the ring, put another one here to secure this, and now I'm hoping that I can get the housing up when I raise this windshield housing. I hope I can get it underneath and secured, and then connect this on top. The plus to this is that the cable should be just about long enough to reach now that we've kind of tested that, as it were. Awesome, that worked. So just freeing up this part of the cable lets you get the active cruise control radar sensor housing in, and then you can put this bracket on top of it. T30s, you just press the bottom of that, 2 connectors, bang, done. Looking good. Just got to tidy up this cable now and we should be good. All right, winglets back on. You just fold them in like the direction of my hand. You put this bit in here, you fold it back towards the back of the bike, and you line these 2 up here, 220s, put your bolts in, do them up till they're kind of hand tight, and then just knit them up with another half turn and you're good to go. So there you have it then, with the winglets back on and the screen back on. That's the view from the front. Very neat and tidy. Nicely routed cable around the back, down there. Wish I had some black cable ties, but I didn't, so it is what it is. And then from the front, when you're sat on the bike, that's the view. Very nice. Perfect. That's pretty much what it's like when I'm sat on the bike. It's kind of pretty much perfect like that. Nice. And so much better than that big ugly bracket on the back, I think. I'll probably replace those white cable ties for black ones when I get some, but other than that, I think pretty neat job. Hope you'll agree. I'm no home mechanic, but I'll list the parts, hopefully in the reference comments bits below, and have a go yourself. It did take a little while, I must admit. You want to put it aside kind of like an afternoon really, first time you do it. I think, you know, because I was shooting the video as well, it took kind of twice as long as it should have, probably about 4 hours. I think I could have easily done it within a couple of hours if I wasn't shooting, and I'd probably be able to do it within an hour now I've done it, now I know what to do. So, but if it's your first time, allow yourself a little bit of time. All right, I hope that kept you busy during your lunch hour or over a cup of coffee. And if you buy the same equipment and install it, let me know how you get on. All right, sayonara.
Hey you, if you want to become one of the Ride On people, don't forget to subscribe. Ride often, ride carefully, ride on.